I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. With us, the author of this book, the Trump Prophecies. But if you look closely, there's a new version of it. It's the updated and expanded version. They are going on what Mark Taylor, just his prophecies, expanding the book. The publisher, Skywatch, as the publisher actually has updated this because of all the prophecies Mark Taylor had, along with what happened in the prophecies. And I'll tell you, have a lot of stuff that either come true, like, for example, Donald Trump would be president, and stuff that is coming true and stuff that is also on top of that come true, like the energy prophecies. But Mark Taylor, first of all, thanks a lot for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
Oh, well, thank you for having me, Greg. It's always an honor and a pleasure to be on your show.
Nice. Your publisher has come in and updated this book, and it's, when I've gone through it, he's added, I think, about 3 chapters, but all the way through, it's like, okay, Mark Taylor said this, update, boing. There's a little update about what's going on about, for example, in energy. It said, now a year after Donald Trump, or the year Donald Trump was inaugurated, coal exports jumped 61%. In 2017, I believe the reporting is we are now a net exporter of oil, the USA. People will call me and say, well, USA still imports oil. Yes, yeah. But, our energy has, which you prophesized in energy, I want to start there. You said that, energy, we're going to have, it's USA is going to do good in energy. Well, let's start with energy. What are your prophecies that has come true?
Correct. The first one was energy. I actually wrote 2 different prophecies on the energy. Energy, I wrote December 16, 2016. I said that the Lord was saying he was releasing new energy, and that America and Israel would be the largest energy producers in the world. Now, the second one that I wrote, that was actually January 24th, 2018, which is not in the book. It's called Energy Now, and it talks about how the energy boom is here now. The energy explosion will be the biggest in the history of America and Israel. New oil and energy. That's the key words here, Greg. I think we're going to see new energies released, not just the ones we've had before, but new energies will be released, and other countries' economies will be affected by this. China and stuff like this will be put in their place, like we talked about before on your program. But this whole thing with the energy, I believe, is important because it's important to our economy, number one. But number two, I think out of this, you're going to see these new discoveries of new energy at some point.
Also in the prophecies, and this has been, I think, driving our politics. I brought this up in the weekly news wrap up. This is the early Sunday release, so Friday I was out the early. And here we have this crazy bill. Dems hold Barr in contempt. I mean, they held Holder in contempt because of Fast and Furious. They gave guns to drug cartels, and one of our border agents died. How dare the Republicans ask about that from Eric Holder, the Obama Attorney General. But they are putting him in contempt because he can't release stuff that is by statute says they can't do it. And there you have Nancy Pelosi saying that, William Barr lied, and they're making out like he's Trump's lawyer and all this. What do you make of the absolute crazyville going on in Washington now? I mean, how does that fit in with your time is up for those who are corrupt?
Yeah, the time is up for those who are corrupt. I wrote back in 2015 before the president even came into office. Basically that God was going to expose these people, including the Clintons, Barack Obama. All these guys are going to go down for corruption. God's going to expose it. He's going to take them down. This is not, and look, they can blame this on Donald Trump all they want to, Greg. But the point is that this is heaven's agenda. Donald Trump was appointed by the Lord himself to go after these people and to take them down. Now, if it's not Donald Trump, it'll be somebody else. But it will be Donald Trump because God's hand is upon him, like I wrote in the book, or God has anointed him for this very task. Right now, with the whole Barr thing right now, these guys are scared to death because this also leads into the military tribunals, and a plethora of other things. I mean, you're going to see people go to prison for the rest of their lives. You're going to see, I believe, you're going to see people suicide out. You're going to see people, executed for treason. You're going to see more treasonous acts exposed right now than we've ever seen in history. And again, when we talked about, we can kind of move into the military tribunals, where it was the morning after Donald Trump was elected that I went public for the first time talking about these military tribunals. I'm on record.
I heard the tape.
Yep.
I think it was on True. Was it on True News?
Yeah, so yeah, I believe it was on
I
TuneIn.
heard it. I heard it myself. I heard it.
Right.
I heard you say,
And
you know,
so
I keep getting these military. I keep getting this military tribunal. The Lord's telling
right.
me that He's gonna, you know, there's gonna have courts and people that bring people to task. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the military tribunals, the Lord told me, would make Nuremberg look like a cakewalk. Well, if you look at the scope of the corruption in D.C. right now, if you look at what they're trying to do, they're trying to weasel their way out of this with Barr. They're trying to hold him in contempt. Why? Because the doors are closing in. And I will say this, tick-tock, because the sand's running out of the hourglass. These guys that are corrupt, I don't care if you're Republican, I don't care if you're Democrat, I don't care who you are, I don't care if you held the highest office in the land, you will be held accountable and God will take you down. Now, the one thing I will say about this, from a spiritual standpoint, is that I believe God gives every person on this earth a chance to repent and turn the other cheek and be forgiven for what they've done. But I will say this, that's not going to stop justice from being served. Justice is on the earth right now. It is going to be served, period. And I think these guys know it. They're in full-blown panic mode in Washington, D.C. And you got to remember, this, the length, the width, the depth, and the breadth of this thing, Greg, it's global. And we've even got people like in Australia right now that, or in England right now, who were part of this spying on Trump, who are in full-blown panic right now. So this is global. It's not just about America. God's not just setting America free. This is about taking down the entire Luciferian reign, who's been in control of the earth for centuries, thousands of years.
And listen, I want people to think this is not hyperbole. I mean, they had the head of GCHQ, the head of the British spy agencies, quit two or 3 days after Donald Trump. He was 51 years old.
Right.
You know, they've been tagged with. They had a former MI6 spy doing this dossier. They teamed up along with Australia. Listen, when you're you know, trying to remove a duly elected president from your nuclear-armed #1 ally, that's treason in your country.
That's right.
I think Theresa May, if she approved this, and I don't see how she couldn't have known about it, because she was part of what their version of Homeland Security. I think this is a big deal. Tell me about this military tribunals. I mean, we talked about this. You brought this up, and I'm coming back to it, circling back around to it. It came up in the Kavanaugh hearings. You can listen to it for yourselves, folks. This is not something I think. This is something that happened in Kavanaugh's a confirmation hearing with Lindsey Graham. Google Lindsey Graham, Kavanaugh Military Tribunal. It also happened, you know, a few months later, with Dianne Feinstein, Senator Feinstein, doing the confirmation hearings, not for Supreme Court, but for a high federal court, Dan Collins. And she asked about it, and Collins said, I can't talk. Well, you don't have it. You can't talk. You won't talk about it. You don't have an opinion. It could come up in front of my court, says Collins. It was only about a minute-long exchange. Right. Tell me about apparently somebody thinks there's going to be military tribunals.
Absolutely. And, you know, when I went public with that, I got criticized for that because people thought, well, you know, there's no way there's going to be military tribunals, or because this was the day after. The Lord started showing me about a month before Donald Trump got elected. So when you think about this, I mean, the talk of military tribunals at the time was controversial. People looking at me like I'm nuts. And so but you look at the exchange between Kavanaugh and Lindsey Graham, and I'm paraphrasing with this, but I mean, this was like the shot heard across the world when he said, can a citizen be held for treason in America? He said, yes. Can they be in front of a military tribunal? He said, yes. That's like the shot heard around the world right there.
Well, he also said people were executed for this. Yes, and he named the case.
Yes.
He named the case they got executed.
That's right. And see, again, they see the doors closing in on this thing. The sand's running out of the hourglass. They have nothing else left to play. Now, I will say this. People need to be very careful, keep your head on a swivel right now, because the false flags that these guys are going to use to try to intimidate the deep state, so to speak, may kick up. I've been warning about this for a while. You know, when there are mass arrests coming. I don't know what to tell people. There have been arrests going on. They just haven't been reporting on it. But when the mass arrests, the big people, when the big fish go down, so to speak, we need to be prepared for some civil unrest in places right now. You know, it's nothing to be scared of. I'm not a doom and gloomer. It's just something we need to be prepared for is all.
Well, here's a big case. Here's a big case. Okay, hold on. I'm just bring this up because I saw it. I thought, wow, why wouldn't this be a case where they put this thing out? And I'm going to go full screen here, and I want to bring this up. It's not being reported, folks. I brought this up. It's another thing, and another thing I brought up. It says right here. Let me get in here. Prosecutor lays out trafficking case against self-help guru. We're talking about the Nexium. This is about the Nexium story. Down here in the bottom lower corner, so talk about. They're not even reporting. This involves gurus that help very wealthy people. This involves heiresses to the Seagram Fortune fame. I think somebody's already pleaded out over there. This involved characters on big major TV shows like Superman. This has for example, Catherine Oxenberg's daughter. We're talking about sex slaves. We're talking about human trafficking. We're talking about a global type deal, and yet just a little corner. Is that the arrest that the media is hiding?
Absolutely, and you got to figure these people in these court cases like Nexium or El Chapo or Jeffrey Epstein, you got to figure these guys have got the goods on a ton of people in Washington, the elites, the globalists. I mean, don't think for one second they're not naming names, because they start naming names. This is the other reason why they're panicking, is because they know these court cases are going on, and I believe that they're setting the foundation for actually what's going on. Now, how this works out, I don't know, but I just know that, again, this is part of the panic in D.C. because, again, they don't think that this would have ever gotten this far. They never thought she would lose, Greg.
Well, yeah. Well, they never thought she would lose because they were going to cheat her in, just like they cheated her past Bernie Sanders. But you just talked about El Chapo, legitimate case going on. He had lots of information. Jeffrey Epstein, pedophile island, legitimate case. He lost his protection deal. That's also a legitimate case going, just like the Nexium case, another legitimate case ongoing. These aren't just little things we think about, some conspiracy theory. They are actual cases that have been on, that are and or ongoing cases. Is this just the tip of the iceberg on the sex trade with the evil in our world?
Yeah, I believe it is. I believe also, and I'll tie this in with some spiritual stuff. I also believe that you're going to find out that you're going to find churches, you're going to find ministries, you're going to find seminaries that have been involved in pedophilia, sex trafficking, human trafficking, satanic abuse, whatever the case may be that's been going on in some of these places. I think it's going to shock people when they find out the amount of people and who all has been involved in a lot of this stuff.
And with Donald Trump, now the the Mueller thing is over, and Barr, we have all these upcoming investigations that have yet to be released. We have a guy by the name of prosecutor Huber, that's working on a case. We also have the Office of Inspector General Horowitz, who's going to come out with the FISA stuff. Now President Trump is just saying this whole thing was made up. We want to find out who started this, and they're looking into that. This is a phony deal. We know by public information that there was no crime committed when Mueller was put in as a special prosecutor. He's supposed to prosecute a crime. There was no crime. This was a phony counterintelligence thing. We know that. That's a fact. We know they used a phony dossier paid for by Hillary Clinton. She took over the DNC. Paid for by Hillary Clinton to apply for spy warrants. Wait, that's a fact.
Right.
And yet,
I believe that the kickoff of this whole thing was the Mueller report. He had to get the Mueller report out of the way so that it didn't look like that when the arrest went down, that he wasn't trying to be a dictator, basically, and make it look like that he's just arresting all those that oppose him. So, I think we are literally on the cusp right now. Now, the timing of this, I'm not going to put a time on this. I don't know, but I sense that we're on the cusp of a lot of big stuff happening, because the FISA report coming out, this is why I'm warning about the false flag stuff, because with this FISA coming out, the OIG and stuff, these guys are panicking. They're going to do anything and everything they can to change the narrative or keep the narrative keep the focus off of them, so to speak.
Let's go back to John Kerry this past week. I love One American News. They'll get President Trump in a press conference and they'll just roll. He goes off this past week. I know this is Sunday. This is, Thursday. And he goes off on John Kerry, among other things, the Chinese, and we rebuilt their economy. The whole thing's a witch hunt. It was a hoax, and we're going to find out how it started, which means we'll find out how the whole treason and sedition started. But anyway, John Kerry, he said John Kerry should be arrested. He's telling Iran, who we have a carrier going to the Persian Gulf because of information about some sort of attack, according to the president and others. He's saying that Kerry is telling Iran not to talk with the United States. Trump said Kerry should be prosecuted under the Logan Act. He broke the law under the Logan Act. That he is basically talking to around telling, giving him a bag of advice, telling him not to talk to us. What do you make of him coming out saying a former Secretary of State is breaking the law, talking to Iran, telling him not to talk to the United States? He says that's a bad idea. What do you make of that?
Well, if you'll notice, I think it all goes along the lines because there was about a 24-hour period when he first, it was about maybe, I want to say about a month ago, don't quote me on that, where he came out and one of his speeches to the news and talked about the word treason. First time he had used it. And then the very next day, the press secretary talked about treasonous act.
Yeah.
Okay, I think this goes along with exactly what he was doing there. This goes along, and he's preparing the public for what's coming. Because, again, if you don't have a stomach for justice, you better get one now. You better get one quick. Because justice is here, and it is not going to be pretty when this stuff goes down. So I think he's trying to prepare the public. He's trying to make the case that, hey, these guys are committing treasonous acts, and don't be surprised when you see these guys doing a perp walk.
And this is all, you think this is all part of your time is up for those who are corrupt?
Absolutely.
Prophecy, which, just so you know, when I say your prophecy, I mean prophecies that you get from God. These are
God
not your prophecies.
Yep.
You are saying it, but you say the credit goes to the God the Father.
Right. That was November 17th, 2015.
Read it to
time
us.
Is up. Okay, so November 17th, 2015, time is up. It says, the Spirit of God says, I'm neutering this sitting president, talking about Obama at the time. I am neutering this sitting president this hour. So his evil and corrupt ideologies and theologies can no longer reproduce in this country I call my United States of America. For the man who holds the title, called the President of the United States, will begin to lose his grip from it and be stripped of it, for I, the Lord God, will rip it from him. That's big right there. I'll come back to that. This man who calls himself Commander-in-Chief is nothing more than a lying, deceitful thief. The Spirit of God says the time is up for those who are corrupt. For I shall begin to remove those who stand for evil in leadership and stand in the way of my agenda. Judges, senators, congressmen, and women of all kinds, even at the local, state, and federal lines. Even the Supreme Court is not immune from their corrupt and evil ways, for I will remove some and expose their backdoor deals which have been at play. For my America has been chosen as the launching platform for my harvest, and she will be a light unto the world once again as I clean up that which is the darkest. Fear not, America. Your greatest days are ahead of you. Arise, my army, and fight, and watch what I will do for you. Now, look, if it's my understanding, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, it's my understanding that the only way that you can strip the title of a president from an American president is if he's charged with treason. So if this president, Barack Obama, is charged with treason, he will be stripped of the title of the presidency. Therefore, that part of the prophecy will come to pass right there. And I believe he will be stripped of it.
The Iran deal was unsigned. I have the documents to prove it. It came from the Kerry State Department to Mike Pompeo, who just happens to be the Secretary of State now, and said it was not a treaty. It was not signed. We gave them $150 billion. Dave Jand has been on here and said, listen, there was also a drug deal inside this thing. And then you have, Kerry made no bones about being over in Iran. And he was over traveling to Iran. It was widely reported. Jan to say he's trying to save the drug deal, he's trying to save the deal, trying to tell everybody, shh, don't blow this. I mean, I have people, they're saying, well, it was a UN resolution. It was not signed. Sorry. And so you're saying that this Iran deal, and who knows how many other deals. Right. I mean, we gave the number one, according to the Kerry State Department, every other State Department, I think, I don't know, since Carter, that Iran was the number one sponsor of terror, according to the State Department. And we gave them $150 billion. Yes, I know it's their money, but we gave them money. And Kerry even admitted they commit terror with it and build military bases and I don't know who's funding the Houthi rebels and all that. So the long and short of it is you think that that Obama will be stripped of his title, president.
I believe he will be stripped of his title. He will be held accountable for his crimes. He will be charged with treason. There's been some speculation that he would even claim Kenyan citizenship to get out of it. So I don't know. That part I don't know. But the Lord was talking about here that even the Supreme Court is not immune from the corrupt and evil ways. There's been some stuff going on behind closed doors. Now here's the thing. There's been some talk about the FISA thing.
Oh yeah. John Roberts is supposed to run right herd over that, and not a word crickets from John Roberts.
Yes. And now here's my question. I'm just going to pose this out to the people. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm just posing this out here. Is that if Obama is charged with treason, that means it negates everything that he's ever put in place, correct? And if that is the case, then that means the 2 Supreme Court justices he put in may be null and void. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there for people to chew on.
Boy, oh boy. Well, let's talk about your other prophecies that you had, defeating ISIS. That was another thing that you said, that they would take them down, that they would not be allowed to thrive. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that's correct. That is correct. Yep. And we talked about full circle. I wrote that October 19th, 2016. That's almost a month before the president got in. It's called Full Circle, that Russia and the United States would come together and would help one another defeat ISIS. Well, we have literally almost seen that come to pass, because even the president just tweeted out or talked about it, a couple weeks ago, where there's not a whole lot of ISIS left. They pretty much wiped these guys off the map. There's very little of ISIS left right now.
That's another one.
That's another one. The other thing that I believe that one of the prophecies talked about in here, along with Russia, because everybody wants to claim Russia's the enemy. Russia's the enemy. No, Russia's not the enemy. I've always said that the Lord was showing me that China was a bigger threat than Russia, and we've seen that. But that America and Russia would work together in defeating the globalists, defeating the New World Order. Now, you look at Putin for a minute. Putin cannot stand the New World Order. He cannot stand guys like George Soros. From my understanding, George Soros is not even allowed in the country. But he is working hand in hand. I believe that a lot of these leaders now, again, people have to open their eyes, Greg, and see what God's doing on the earth right now, especially through this president. If you look at Brazil got their version of a Donald Trump in. Italy got their version of a Donald Trump in. You're seeing this patriotism go worldwide. It's going global right now, because people are sick and tired of being controlled by the Luciferians, by these Satanists, whether it's the Fed, which we can get into here in a little while, the banking systems. Well, look at France. France is burning right now because the Patriots are trying to take it back. Venezuela's burning right now because the Patriots are trying to take it back. People are tired of this, and God is doing a huge work right now across the earth.
I want to talk about the economy. One of the things that you said, and people went, say what? I mean, the dollar would get stronger, that the economy would get stronger. And, I got to tell you, I was one of the ones I thought, come on, now you really, I mean, we're all this debt and all this stuff. Now, we do have a lot of debt. But the dollar did get stronger, and the economy did get stronger. We have had some shakiness here in the last week or so with this China trade deal. You also said that China would be put in its place.
Yes. And,
foreigners are dumping, this is a story that happened on Zero Hedge this past week, foreigners are dumping Chinese stocks at a record pace ahead of these, tariffs that were promised. So, what do you make of that? What do you make of the economy? What do you make of all this debt? I mean, there's a lot of debt out there, and China, I just had Michael Pinto on. He said that China went from $10 trillion in debt in 2007 to $40 trillion of debt here in 2019. Wow. I mean, explosion. Right. I mean, we've had a big explosion of debt too, but not, 10x, 3 times, from 10 trillion to 40 trillion in I don't know what, 12 years. Right.
And the thing was, I even said it on your show. I actually released it on your show, where I thought that I said that Russia wasn't the problem; it was China that's the problem. And China, there was something coming for China that was going to put them in their place, whether it was tariffs, trade war, whatever the case may be. All these things, and I think it's all the above for China right now. China's in trouble, so I mean, they're being put in their place right now, because I think they were trying to basically take over the world in their own way, and God's putting them in their place, saying, no, this is not going to happen right now. And so as far as the economy goes, now, as far as the dollar, and I mean, you've talked about this before, about the dollar. Is it going to be this dollar? I don't know. Is it going to be something that's reset with the Fed, which we can talk about here? I don't know. Is it going to be, I don't believe we're going to go into a depression or anything like that. Everybody's kind of got this doom and gloom message about, be careful because this everything's about to get rocked. I think, can we have a reset of something? Yeah, I think we can have a reset of something. Could we have something where we go to a new dollar like we talked about, backed by gold? Absolutely. I don't know what, God hasn't gotten that particular with me yet. You know what I mean? He hasn't showed me anything on that. But I don't feel like that we're going to be in trouble as far as economically. I mean, again, could something be reset? Yeah.
But you think that Donald Trump's going to be voted back in?
Absolutely. His next election is just going to be, he's just going to sail right in, because again, the economy right now is nothing compared to what it's going to be by the time he gets back in office. By the time his second term comes around, I mean, it's going to be booming, because you got to remember, hopefully all of this stuff will be taken care of, the arrests and the judgment will be set down on some of this stuff. Some of these systems will be taken care of. And so, but the economy, he's just going to sail right in right now. I mean, look, I'll give you, for instance, right here. I'm a retired firefighter, and look at the firefighters' unions right now. And the president's even been calling them out. When I was with the fire department, I mean, we were a part of the union, and I never agreed with a lot of the things those guys did. But look at the union, the head of the firefighters' union. I can't remember the guy's name. I can never pronounce his name. Sternberger, or whatever his name is. They're trying to vote Democrat right now. Well, all the firefighters are now, there's this move right now to put him in his place, because they don't want to vote Democrat. They want to vote for Trump. Why? Because Trump's economy is booming right now. I talked about in one of the prophetic words here, I believe it was this one right here, America, America, where he said he would be a man of his word, and the entire world would fear this man because they know he's a man of his word. He's not a politician, Greg. He's not a politician. When the man speaks something, he means it. And that's why these people are scared to death of what's coming, because they know what's coming. They know he's a man of his word.
I mean, if I'd have told you, I haven't talked to you for a while. I'm sorry I haven't talked to you for a while, but we've been waiting for you, for your new book to come out. So again, it's updated. Okay, I'm not getting to all the updates, okay, folks. I'm not. I'm only getting to a few of them. So you need to buy the book and read it yourself and look at it's all through the book. There's all these updates throughout the book, and it's in a different print actually. So then oh, this is an update. This is the publisher updating this book, not Mark Taylor. But anyway, but the economy question is a big one. We have a lot of debt. Do you understand how? Do you getting any kind of pings on how we're going to take care of all this $23 trillion? Right now we don't have a debt ceiling. We have emergency measures right now. We're stealing from pension funds. My friend Gregory Manarino calls me and says, wow, they are borrowing from pension funds. I mean, we only have 6 months of money. But you're not worried about any of that.
I'm not worried about it. I'm really not, because again, God's in control. There's a plan in place. Again, how the debt is dealt with, I don't know. I don't have specifics on that. I like what you said about getting a ping on that. I'm going to start using that. Is God pinging me on something? No, well, he's not.
Well, I don't. I just so people know. You can have Mark Taylor on. Listen, I call you pretty regularly and say, listen, if you get something, I don't want you to give me a prophecy. I don't think it works that way.
No, it does not.
And so I don't want you to, give me make something. I don't want you to make something up, right? Although you did release on, and I want to bring this up. You said this won't be the last Trump in the White House, and now we have Trump Jr. being subpoenaed in the Senate, which is cuckoo time. Wackadoodle. Richard Burr is a nut. He's a Republican from North Carolina. His his switchboard here in North Carolina is shut down.
Right.
That's how pissed off people are with it. What are you doing? You just had a report. The Senate just had a report that no collusion and no obstruction. The Senate, along with the House, along with the FBI, along with Mueller. What are they doing? But Trump Jr. is. What do you think of that? I mean, I don't know. You just said it would be the last Trump in the White House. Have you gotten anything more on that?
Yes, I have actually. Since the last time I was on.
Okay,
so,
let's hear it.
God has pinged me on something on this.
Okay.
So let me say this: is that they're going to do everything they can to try to stop Junior, because, believe it or not, I think he is probably going to be one of the next ones in the White House. Now, as far as in line, I don't know. Could it be Ivanka? That may be why she's in the White House, because she'd be the first woman president. I don't know, but I will say this: God gave me a dream about maybe 3-4 weeks ago, and in it I saw Junior, Donald Trump Jr., and I knew the Lord was putting an emphasis on Junior as far as being in the White House. And on the other side, I heard JFK Jr. Now, I don't want people to read into this, okay? I'm not saying it's almost like it was going to be a junior ticket, but I'm not saying JFK Jr. is alive. I'm not going to go down that road. God has not shown me anything, so please don't bombard me with anything about that. What I'm saying is God was placing an emphasis on the junior part. Well, I went public with that. I think it was right after that, and it was like 24, 48 hours later, it came out where Donald Jr. was talking about publicly that he was going to probably run for office because he loved to get in the fight, basically, so to speak. So at some point, I think you will see Don Jr. in the White House at some point. Now, when that is, I don't know. Again,
but you got pinged on the idea of Junior, because JFK Jr., had he lived, it's widely believed he'd have sailed into the
He'd
White
have sailed
House.
into it.
Of
If
course,
he was alive today, he'd be sailing into it.
the Democrat Party isn't the Democrat Party of
No.
JFK Senior. I
No.
mean JFK. I mean, I'm sorry.
No.
JFK was
No.
actually a good president. I mean, he was an
Right.
American. He wanted
Well,
America to do
if
well.
he was alive right now, he wouldn't even be a Democrat.
He'd probably be a Republican.
He'd be a Republican.
Yeah.
So, I mean, could there be another junior somewhere? Someone has a junior that hasn't come on the scene yet that would be with junior, and it would be a junior ticket. That's possible. Anything's possible, guys. So, I mean,
But you definitely see this is not the last Trump, and then you got some more.
This is not the last Trump in the White House. I mean, there could actually be more than two. But listen, I got news for people. I'm going to say something to these Democrats that are trying to stop Junior or another Trump from coming in the White House. It's not going to happen, because if it's God ordained, nothing that God ordains or speaks it's going to stop it. Period. So you can try to subpoena this guy, try to do whatever you want. If God says that Junior is going to be in the White House, he's going to be in the White House. Nothing's going to stop it.
What about the war card? A lot of stuff with Iran, and they're threatening to close down the Strait of Hormuz. You got the Houthi. They've been funding this for 4 years. Oh, about the same amount of time they got their 150 billion. And the Iran deal, the no signature fraud, the Iran deal, what do you think about the war card? Do you see a war anytime soon? I mean, have you gotten pinged on that?
No, I have not gotten pinged on that, but I will say this. This is what I was warned about earlier about the false flags. The closer we get to the FISA drop, or the OIG, whichever one he's going to drop first, this is what you're going to have to watch out for, because the deep state is trying to start a war, whether it's in Venezuela with the Cubans, whether it's in North Korea is kicking up a little bit again.
They got a ship last week.
Yep, and so this thing with Iran, it's the deep state that's doing this, guys. It's not the people of these countries that are doing it. These people want to be set free, and I believe at some point God's going to set them free. But the deep state has to be dealt with first, and there's a timeline. I believe that God's doing this. There's a plan in place of how He's going to do it. What that is, I don't know. I'm not privy to that. God has not shown me anything on that. But I mean, these are the types of false flags you got to watch out for. Not just the shooting. Notice we just had a school shooting again out in Colorado again. So I mean, but just keep your eyes peeled to keep your head on a swivel.
Well, I think it's very unusual for a sitting president, to say about a former Secretary of State, saying this person broke the law. They're over there telling Iran, which is the #1 state sponsor of terror. Evidently, there's more than one call that's been going on. He's telling them that they shouldn't talk to me.
Right. Well, I think at some point you're going to see. I mean, look at the treasonous acts. I mean, that's a treasonous act to me. Period.
Oh, he's telling him not to talk to the sitting president of the United States, and talk to him who's out of office. He's worth no more than a guy in a bodega. I'm sorry. His opinion is
slap the cuffs on him, do a perp walk. I mean, that's how you stop this stuff. When was the last time, Greg, someone was actually executed for treason in this country? Sorry. People are going to say, well, that's not Christian-like. You shouldn't ask people to die. That's not what I'm saying. There's a righteousness and justice are the foundation of God's throne. The last time, I don't know when it was. It's been decades since anybody's been executed for treason. So, and that's part of the problem. There's been no accountability, and now this stuff's been allowed to run absolutely like wildfire across the globe. Now, all of a sudden, justice steps in, and people are being held accountable, and you've got some people on the other side of the aisle that are screaming, oh, no, you can't do this. We don't want you to do that. I've even seen some Christians saying, oh, we just all need to get along. No, you don't understand. It's like I've said before. You better get a stomach for justice, because this stuff's going to come down hot and heavy. It's accountability time.
Well, I mean, I think Kavanaugh, in the Kavanaugh hearings, I think Lindsey Graham brought that up. It was around just after World War II, where they listed the case, and they were put to death.
Yeah.
So
this has been what, 70 years since someone's been executed. So this has been allowed to go on, and people think, well, I can do whatever I want to and not be held accountable. This has come to a stop. You start executing people, or you start sending them to prison for the rest of their life. This stuff will stop.
Here's something else I want to talk about the accountability. Your thoughts on this? These people aren't. I mean, you have Greg Craig, who's a big-time Washington D.C. lawyer, and he's been charged, and he knows a lot. And you think no matter who it is, whether it's Hillary or whether it's Comey or McCabe or Strzok or Page or all these other people involved in this big coup attempt, and that's just exactly what it was. What the president says, and I agree with him. And Brennan and Clapper and these people may get 20, 30-year prison sentence, or they may be asked to roll over on some people. What do you think they would do? Spend the rest? These people are 50 and 60. You get 30 years when you're 50 and 60. That's the rest of your life, basically.
It's a life sentence.
I mean, are they going to roll over? Are they going to do 30, 40, 50 years? Are they going to do that? Are they going to say,
Well,
listen, we can put you to death, or you can tell us who you are working with? What are they going to do?
I mean, or they could say, hey, are there any deals? No, there's no deals here. You give us what you want, and we'll let you choose your exit strategy. Is it going to be execution, or are you just going to suddenly just pass away with some type of medical issue
Or maybe they say,
to
okay,
save your reputation?
or they say maybe, listen, you could do hard time in a state penitentiary, with MS-13 gang members, or we can help you out. Now, what would you like to do? Where would you like to spend your next 30 years?
Right.
I mean, that could happen.
It's coming.
Or they may cut. I think Lisa Page already flipped. Dave Jandis says Lisa Page flipped early in 2017.
Yeah, well, I don't doubt it. Again, I think these guys, some of these guys, I think that's why they went after some of these smaller fish first, is because so that they would sing and so that they would get their intel about the bigger stuff. They could build their cases. And again, I'm no law expert by any means, but it just seems like to me that this is where they started. And now, again, with Trump talking about carrying the Logan Act, and he was talking about treason, and the press secretary was talking about treason. He's trying to prepare the public for what's coming. Because look, Greg, a lot of people have not been red-pilled on what's been going on. They haven't been keeping up on what's been going on. I mean, they live in their little bubble or whatever the case may be. They don't want to get out of their comfort zone. They don't want to hear about it. And then when the arrests go down, it's going to be a huge shock to some of these people. I think it's going to be a huge shock to a lot of us who've been keeping up with this, just to see how deep, how corrupt, and how bad some of the things these people have been into, what they've actually done.
I've brought this up many, many times, and I want to keep hitting this because most people don't hit this, and that is the media leak strategy. That was the official name from Strzok, the number 2 counterintelligence FBI agent, with the lawyer to the number 2, Andrew McCabe, Lisa Page, those two, and they talked about the media leak strategy. The media was involved in this, according to the FBI.
That's right.
They were part of the strategy, and here we have on Zero Hedge last week, former NSA NGA analyst indicted for leaking classified documents to reporter.
Yep.
How bad is the media going to stink on this deal? Are they part of the time is up for those who are corrupt?
Absolutely. And I had prophesied in the Commander-in-Chief prophecy back in 2011 that even the mainstream media will be captivated by this man and the abilities that I have gifted him with, and they will even begin to agree with him, says the Spirit of God. Now, you're seeing a couple of stories coming out now where they're starting to agree with the president on some issues, but here's the big one.
Oh, yeah. Well, hold on. This is part of the prophecy. Now, you prophesied that. New York Times came out and said the dossier was a phony dossier, basically. New York Times also came out in an op-ed and said, give the president his wall money. It's a disaster down there. The New York Times. Washington Post, Bob Woodward and Bernstein, the squirt gun fight, Watergate fame. He said, there's something wrong with that dossier. Really? So you're absolutely right. There's another payoff on your prophecy.
Right.
I mean, these are some big names that are agreeing with the president.
Right, and here's the other thing with the media, because I'm glad you brought that up. One of the signs, one of the prophecies, I can't find it here right now. One of the signs in one of the prophecies is that the media will go bankrupt and will go under, some of them. That was one of the signs that God was going to give when He starts to clean out the media and bring back true journalism. Well, look at the story that just came out with CNN, talking about how they just had layoffs.
Yeah, they should be firing people. You know what they should do? This is sad. They should be firing people at the head office, not the underlings. Right. They should be firing the anchors who perpetrated this fraud, Jeff Zucker, who oversaw this fraud. They should start at the top, not at the bottom and mid-level people. I feel sorry for those people who are out in the street because of their idiotic anchors and management.
Yep, and here it is right here. July 7th, 2017, under Satan's Frequency is the name of the prophecy. About halfway down, it says, the Spirit of God says, the news media, you have become a stench unto my nostrils. There is no spirit of truth in you. I, the Lord God, will clean out the news media and bring back truth. The sign will be given when news media outlets will go down, bankrupt, and I, the Lord God, will rebuild them using my righteous people to restore them. I am calling on my army and those who are chosen to be journalists, investors, to get ready to take your place as I tear down and rebuild my news media. And then he goes on to talk about where's my millionaires and my billionaires, talking about they need to invest in some of this and buy these guys out.
USA Today just lost GCI, the Gannett, the newspaper version. Used to be newspaper and TV. The Tanga and GCI Gannett broke off, but USA Today, the GCI, they lost money. There's a buyout for USA Today. Their stock has gone from, I think they offered to buy it out at, I don't know, 10 or 12, and now it's 8. I mean, it's just tanking. Their stocks are tanking. Look what they're doing. I mean, here we are again. Yeah. Like I said, the Nexium sex scandal. This is a reported case with celebrities and international appeal and sex trade slave. You think they would at least report on a case, a juicy like that, to sell some newspapers?
Right.
And it has big name actresses, heiresses, international intrigue, sex, human trafficking. They're not going to cover that. They're not going to sell newspapers.
Well, didn't CNN drop by like 26% or something like that? Or it was something huge like that. And then if they didn't have the contracts in the airports, I think they'd already be finished, to be honest with you. But
that's right.
Yeah, so I think at this point, I think you're going to see a couple of these outlets, these big outlets, go down, go bankrupt, and when they do, that's the sign that God's going to he's tearing them down and he's going to rebuild them. But here's the other thing that you touched on earlier, is that are there indictments for some of these guys?
For the media.
For the media. Yeah, I think I say absolutely yes. I think this is part of the tearing down process. I think you're going to see some of these people go to prison for what they've done.
And Mark, I'll tell you, people think that reporters come back home and come back in and they just sit there and just type their stories out. They just send them right out on CNN or right on the front page of the New York Times. Right. And that ain't the way it works, my friend. Right. The managers all know. So this is going to be indictments for people all the way at the top positions of these entities.
Absolutely. And when you're talking about taking from the top down, held accountable for some of this stuff, it's probably going to take the whole organization down. They're going to have to be rebuilt from the inside.
Wow. Any other prophecies you want to say that paid off for you? We covered some big ones.
Yeah, we covered some big ones. I think some of the other ones. I take that back. There's another one right here. The Evil Crew of 32, which I wrote in January 16, 2018, talking about the 5 ex-presidents. Now, there's been a lot of talk about the 5 ex-presidents. It said that 2 would be taken and 3 will be shaken. Well, look at the ex-presidents right now: Bush 43, Carter, Bill Clinton, Obama, all these guys. I mean, every one of these guys are shaking in their boots right now. Because they know they're fixing to be held accountable. Now, the Lord dealt with me on something right there, because we talked about, this whole show's been about, whether it's treason, whether some will be executed, some will go to prison, whatever the case may be. Some will have a medical condition and be allowed to go out to save their reputation, whatever the case. Bush 41. Now, here's what God drew to my attention. Now, I can't prove this. I'm just telling you what God told me, is that 2 will be taken and 3 will be shaken. And the Lord drew my attention, and I didn't even realize this when I wrote it. It wasn't until a few months ago. He said, notice the word taken. He said it didn't say they would die of natural causes. See, everybody thought that the 2 will be taken. They automatically assumed that it would be Jimmy Carter because he's the oldest. I don't think that's it. I really don't. Because it also talks about in here how the second one will be taken that came against Israel. Well, nobody came against Israel as bad as Barack Obama did. And so I think you're going to see some of this stuff play out. Now, I'm not saying the man's going to be executed. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying that the word taken right there, because Bush 41, a lot of people were speculating, did he actually die or did he have a military trip? I'm not going to get into all that. But did he die of the medical stuff? The Lord told me he was taken. 2 will be taken. So whoever this next one is, I don't know. They will be taken. So I'm just going to leave that for someone else to figure out.
All right. Well, listen, we're going to stay right there. You gave us almost 45 minutes here. The book, and thanks for coming on first for USAWatchdog.com. I'm a huge, actually a friend and actually a fan of yours. I think you speak the truth. I always say you know the truth when you hear it. And, you've said this stuff, and then here we are down the road where, that happened, the energy, the dime is up for those who are corrupt, that happened, the other stuff. Here's the book. It looks a lot like the other one, except right here at the top, it says updated and expanded. Again, the publisher expanded this, and then down here, it's the right thing. It's just Mark Taylor has the book. It's really well done. I mean, it's really just so people know that the prophecies are all on swordrescue.com, right? They're for free. I mean, people say, Absolutely. You sell those prophecies. No, you don't.
No.
And
you'll give the prophecies were up on the website way before the book came out. They were up there for free.
Yeah, swordrescue.com. And you don't you don't have any more I know you put new ones on all the time, but right now you haven't had anything on for a while, correct?
That's correct.
That's correct. All right, well, it only comes when it comes. It comes when, hey, I got something to tell you. Listen up. So, I mean,
When
right?
he pings me.
When he pings you, that's right. That's right. He can do whatever he wants, right?
That's right.
But anyway, listen, Mark Taylor, thanks for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com for this early Sunday release. Thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it again. And you'll send me links for where I go for the book. Is there going to be some kind of a DVD deal too with this?
Yeah, I think Skywatch TV is going to be offering the book and the DVD, the movie that came out on the book. Also, they can go to buy it on Amazon, or they can get it at Barnes & Noble, either one.
Okay, you'll send me the links. I'll go ahead.
I'll send you the links.
You'll send me the links. And also the links for Sword Rescue, where all the prophecies are. They're amazing to read. I mean, you listen to you talk, and then you read these prophecies and go, wow, the person talking didn't write that. I mean, you know what I'm saying.
Right.
You wrote it, but it's just a different thought pattern.
All the glory goes to the Lord.
All right, okay, good. I'm not cutting you down or anything. I'm just trying to give credit where credit is due. That's all. All right, Mark Taylor, thank you so much for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
Thank you for having me, Greg. It's always a pleasure to be on.